I decided to do something different this week and give you all two for the price of one. We're discussing two mainline releases from Vacheron Constantin and Omega. Two very different releases, two different price points. Now, do either of these watches get everything 100% right? No. There is definitely a lot of criticisms surrounding both of these watches, which is what I'm going to get into. But this being one of the earliest weeks of 2025, and these being some of the first mainline releases from big brands, it had to be done. So this is the year for anniversaries. Sure, I won't be the first to say that we will be expecting many of them from all walks of life. Maybe some anniversaries that haven't necessarily been earned, and maybe some that will be entirely fictional. Before the year even starts, it feels like there are rumblings and rumors that 2025 is going to be a big year for watch launches. Now Vacheron, after what must be 2 years, if I'm remembering right, since the arrival of the 222, celebrating the 45th anniversary of the 222, which was celebrating the 222nd anniversary of Vacheron Constantin as a company. This brand especially is dealing with anniversary inception, but they have finally launched the 222 in steel, a watch that has been hotly anticipated for decades, and the arrival of the gold 222 obviously spurred them on. Believe it or not, there were no plans or talks about a stainless steel variant in the pipeline at that time. So what is new? Yes, it is another integrated bracelet model, and yes, we were tired of them 5 years ago. But there is no denying that this is a very attractive looking piece. Now, like I said, the 222 implies that it was the 222nd anniversary of Vacheron Constantin in 1975. And if you've known me long enough, you know that I am addicted to the one-to-one reissue models. I mean, I'm wearing one that I absolutely adore. There's another one in front of you. This is my wheelhouse. And I've always said maybe they didn't get everything right the first time. But in virtually every case, these are the progenitors that evolved the collections to where they are now. The Vacheron Overseas and all of its success would not exist if it wasn't for the 222. Now, seeing it arrive in steel with a blue dial, it's a little bit safe for our liking, right? But since this watch has always been a part of the integrated Holy Trinity with the Royal Oak and the Nautilus, it makes perfect sense why they went this way. Albeit quite tired, and it's been repeated like 5,000 times in the last half decade. We are extremely familiar with this format, and it could take the wind out of its sails, literally and metaphorically. But the diameter of this watch at 37mm, the thickness of almost 8mm just underneath. A movement that consists of nearly 200 parts, 197 if I remember right. And seeing the bottle cap inspired bezel, the crown, a framed date window, some of the best plots and hands in this range. One of the things I have always liked most about this collection is the bracelet taper is just astounding. It is gorgeous, and I am speaking from a place of bias here because I've always preferred the 222's understated design over the heaviness of the Royal Oak and the Nautilus. Now, even though this watch is so very late to the party, to a point where the party's finished, everyone's packed up and left, the house is empty, we cannot deny that this piece has quite a rare significance in the integrated bracelet family. And the best bit of trivia that brings this watch, the Royal Oak and the Nautilus together in the 70s, the designs were kind of similar, sure. The movements were exactly the same, given to them by Jaeger-LeCoultre. But there is a downside to this watch, right? Yes, there are many. They're only available as boutique exclusives, but that was expected. The cost for a steel integrated bracelet sports watch has always been high. This one is no exception. I'm going to put on my nerd glasses and say, I wish that this watch had a running seconds hand. I know it goes against the tradition and where this piece originated, but a running seconds hand on the dial would be nice. And since this piece does not have a running seconds hand, it should not be running at 28,800 vibrations an hour. It should have a lower beat rate of 18,000 or 20,000 to save on the power reserve. As most of us know, another big drawback to this piece is it's got a 40-hour power reserve, and the minimum today should be between 65 and 70, especially at this level. And if you bring down the beat rate, you can maximize the power in the mainspring. The next criticism, I enjoy everything about this dial. The typeface arrangement, the applied Maltese cross is perfect, the plots, the hands, everything marries nicely. But the date window that's not color matched, this could have been improved. Of course, we are splitting hairs. This is a part of the Historique collection, so they wanted to get it as accurate to the original as possible. And corresponding with the white plots on the dial, maybe the white window will work. But for such a significant piece where detail orientation matters, they could have paid attention in a few other areas. And can I be honest and say that I wish this dial was more animated? I want something to move on it. I want there to be some form of light play. Regardless of what everyone else says and what I say, these watches are going to be insanely popular. They're going to sell out so quickly. Of course, long waiting lists, months, years at a time. No surprises there. This is a terrific looking watch. With a few more color variations on its dial, it's going to continue to be insanely popular. The most hilarious thing is that you could pick up a PRX for a tiny, tiny fraction of this price and still get a level of enjoyment out of the integrated bracelet. The 222, therefore, is not just an integrated bracelet watch for the average everyday wearer. I would say even for the accomplished collector who has Nautiluses, Royal Oaks, even the Overseas, this particular watch belongs in its own niche, a very small niche. And I do believe that it will only appeal to a far smaller amount of collectors than usual. And now to the Speedmaster Meteorite Moonphase. One of my favorite releases in recent years is the Zenith Chronomaster Original Annual Calendar. I adore this watch. I adore the brand even more. The Hodinkee limited edition with the Meteorite subdials was one of the best chronographs released in the last 5 years. And then seeing what Omega was cooking up, something with a Moonphase, what looked to be a Meteorite dial, possibly a full calendar complication, I got excited. In contrast to the svelte 222 on one of the first Tuesdays of 2025, Omega delivers a Speedmaster. That's no surprise. Now, if you've been in this game long enough, you see similarities pretty quickly. No, I'm not just talking about it being yet another Speedmaster, but I see the Chronoscope. Do you remember that watch that was released 2 or 3 years ago? Me neither. It remains one of their biggest Speedmaster flops in recent years. And I'll tell you this, when you do a video on Speedmasters, you tend to get good views. My Chronoscope videos that I've made have always been abysmal. So I know of where I speak on this matter. And looking beyond the Meteorite texture, everything I seem to see from the size of the watch, the thickness, the movement where it was once called the 9908 has now been called the 9914. It's been given a Moonphase complication at the base of the dial and a date at the 9 o'clock. This watch I see as a dressed up chronoscope. Nothing wrong with that. Makes perfect sense since the chronoscope has not been a popular seller. But there are some gorgeous details to these pieces. The cabochon Moonphase is at the 6 o'clock. For all the criticism the brand gets on the thickness of their watches, no changes here, it's nearly 14 millimeters thick. Omega knows how to deal with materials and play with them so much better than the majority of other names out there. Whether it's their own manufacture precious metals or just the way they're working with Meteorite here. Now for us enthusiasts, this watch should have been the rebirth of the Speedy Moon. With the Moonphase at the 12 o'clock position, I think it came out around 1985. Especially considering the incredible Speedmasters that they delivered last year. Next to the first Omega in space, next to the White Dial Professional, this one doesn't grab you as much. But is this watch an improvement over the Chronoscope? Absolutely yes. And I find it a shame because I actually do like the Chronoscope and the direction it was going. Put some Breguet numerals on that dial, put it in a CK-inspired case, and there you go. In a nutshell, the Vacheron 222, a welcome surprise. Great piece to start the year off. And this Meteorite Moonphase, it's a worthy complication, but it would have been way better seeing an annual calendar attached to this piece somehow. So what are your thoughts on these two models? Neither of them are original. Is the 222 just banking on the fact that it's an integrated watch? It's playing on a very old trope at this point. And is the Speedmaster just a Chronoscope part spin special, or is there something more to consider? I look forward to hearing your opinions, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next one.